Okay guys, very quick update with Bitcoin. I'm going to give you key levels to pay attention to. In the last video, I mentioned we were in this bearish rising wedge. I said it could break to the upside or the downside. I said if it breaks to the upside, your next target to long, to, or short was around 122,820, around that area. And also gave your lower targets if we broke to the downside. You can see we did push up, and that was the target I gave you. This was yesterday's video. I'll put a link up to it now. Said if confluence for this target, it's around 121K to 122K. Specifically, your next fib channel line above 122,833. You can see we pushed up and we made contact. We actually hit it to the tick right here, almost 122,747. Pushed back up, but notice that the meat of the candle on the hourly is below this fib line. So we know that our most key resistance above, if we do push up, is around 122,925. We're currently holding support right now. You can see the pattern we broke up from, around 119,500. However, there's another chart that I'm paying attention to. I want to see if we get a daily open above or below. That will be confirmation for me whether we're going lower or not. And we'll go into this chart a little bit more. But basically, if 119,500 becomes resistance, we know we're going lower. But this is the hourly chart. I do want to show you the daily chart, as well as a couple other things. Tomorrow is a big day for Bitcoin in the stock market. We discussed that as well. Guys, if you get leverage trading coin cash, it's a great option. There's no KYC, no VPN. This is the events page or specials page. I'll put a link up to it now. If you deposit $1,000, you can get $5,000 bonus back. That's $6,000 margin to trade with. 30 new slots every 7 days. This just restarted a few days ago. They also have lower tiers, so you deposit $500, you get $1,250 back. So that's $1,750 margin you could trade with. 300 slots every 7 days. You can also get free access to my charts in Discord if you do get and use your bonus. So do email me through the website if you use your bonus to get free access. If you want to sign up on my link, I will put a link up to it now. And if you want to learn how to coin catch, guys, learn how to trade on coin catch. This is a tutorial video I put up about how to trade. And I've seen some comments where people say, I can't believe you shorted Bitcoin. Guys, I can have a short open, a small short of 15x with low margin, and still open a long with 30x with $5,000 margin, ride it up, close my long, make a lot of money on my long without closing my short. So again, guys, you need to learn the difference between cross and isolated. You have a lot more options with cross than you do isolated. There are some things you have to keep in mind. When you use cross, you're risking everything in your futures account, but you got to play it smart. That's why you use a stop loss or hedging, and hedging is also something you can do. But again, do watch this video. I cover all of this stuff. It'll just help you, learn how to use the tools to benefit you to be a better trader. It's up to you guys, but if you want to learn how to trade on CoinCatch, I'll put a link to this video now if you want to check it out. And of course, if you want to get access to these live charts in Discord, if you want to sign up, the website's optracrypto.com. I'll put a link up to it now. And I do have tutorials teaching my charting method. Just make sure if you do sign up, you again contact me through the contact page so I can verify you have an account, and I'll see the Discord invite link. You can't pay with USDT, but you need to email me. So let's go ahead and break this down, guys. So first of all, just on the hourly, 119,500 current support. If you want a chance along from there, that's fine. If we do break below that, it becomes resistance. Your next major support level below is going to be around 114,920. Now these will be points you could scalp, possible, a little scalp long, maybe 118,500, back up to 119,500. These will be points you can scalp, but again, these are fib lines. That's why we got rejected here, and that's why we broke above this fib line here. We shot straight up, and now we're holding support. So like I said, once 119,500 breaks, your next major support level is going to be down around 114,920. But that is a key level because we have a gap down there. So I have a few charts to cover. But on the hourly, pay attention to that level. Remember, the bottom of this pattern we broke up from is around 118,962, and that is also an important level to keep in to pay attention to. And this does play along with that D1 chart. Let's go and cover that. So if you'll notice back here, I already had some drawings on here, but if you'll notice this yellow line, and I mentioned these levels up here was in confluence with the H1 chart. If we pushed up, that's why it'd be an ideal point to short. But if you'll notice, this line right here has been a lot of resistance all through here. It became support all through here. It was resistance, got rejected here. Notice a perfect rejection right here. So we know that is a very, very important level. And the reason I bring this up is while, yes, on the H1 chart, we know if we're below, 119,500 or below 119,000, obviously, if this fib line comes to resistance on the hourly, that is going to be bearish down to 114,920. But the reason I bring up the D1 chart is because a lot of times how these charts work, if you get a daily open above, so notice that the next daily open was above 118,637. We pushed up. So if we get a daily open above this point, right? So if we get a daily open above, and this is the next daily, right? It'd be around 118,848 where this fib line is. So if we get a daily open above that point, more than likely we're going to push back up. We might not push all the way back up to 122,984. There are other levels on other charts that I can find, but that is your most key level above. So watch and see. The time recording this video, we have 6 hours and 4 minutes. If we get a daily open above 118,848, more than likely, even if we wick down, we're probably going to push back up. If we get a daily open below 118,848, even if we wick above, more than likely we're coming back down. You can see how price interacted with this. You can see how the meat of the candle is always below. We still wick above, but we drop. Wick above, we drop. So that's why I'm saying that's a very important level to pay attention to, and it's pretty much on par with our current support, right around 119,000. So just want to make sure you have that to pay attention to. And as I said, a lot of confluence for downside targets around 114,000. Keep in mind this is central Bollinger Band on the daily, moving up to that point. But that is a key level, guys. Again, watch what happens the next daily open. And again, as I mentioned, this is the Bitcoin CME futures chart. We do have a gap below, and as I said, price tends to go out of its way to fill these gaps. And that price target is right around, to fill that gap, around 114,000. So that's why a lot of charts are showing confluence around that area. So that's like 113,900. So basically, let's just call it 114,000 to fill that gap. Not saying we have to fill it anytime soon, but if we start breaking below 119,000, that becomes resistance. We see a daily open below 118,848, then more than likely we're coming down to fill that gap. Now, in the last video, I did talk about this DXY chart. I'm not going to rehash it. I did show you zoomed out on the monthly how I found this yellow line right here that goes back since I think like 1980 or something like that. We found support on that level. Again, I went on the monthly chart and went way out. This is a very, very key level for the DXY, and we caught a bounce here. So I'm saying this could possibly be a bottom for the dollar to start pushing up. And keep in mind, that would be bearish for markets, bearish for Bitcoin. If we break below 96.7 with the DXY, and that becomes resistance, then we know Bitcoin and the markets are going to just skyrocket, because that's going to be very bearish for the dollar. But it does look strong for the dollar holding above this point. Watch the previous video. I broke down this chart and zoomed out and showed you on the monthly, but something to pay attention to. And this does go along with what I said with the Dow Jones chart, guys. I am expecting, now these are weekly candles, this can take some time. I did break down in the last video, why this chart, in my opinion, is so important, and why what happened back here in the global financial crisis. At some point, I think something similar is going to happen soon, either at contact with this ring or after we cross this ring. So again, I'm expecting downside with the markets, and Bitcoin typically follows the indices. I know a lot of people don't want to believe that. They think that Bitcoin just does its own thing. The indices do not affect it. That is not the case. I showed yesterday in that last video when we got a top at 108,000 with Bitcoin, it was right here. When we got a top at 109,000, it was right here. Bitcoin bottomed, right? When Bitcoin dropped, and I can show you that. I don't have a. I'd have to have another chart up. Actually, I can just zoom out and show you here. So right here, this was April 7th, 2025, and you can see, I think you can see the date below, April 7th, 2025. So when the Dow bottomed on this ring, that is when Bitcoin bottomed right here around 74,300. So again, you can see that actually, I'm sorry guys, hold on. Yeah, that was April 7th. So yeah, that's right. That's right. So this was 108,000. This was 109,000, and this is where Bitcoin bottomed April 7th, and then we pushed up, and then we pushed up higher. Sorry, I kind of confused myself there. So much on this chart, but again, that's what I'm saying. Bitcoin is following the indices. Now this is the Dow. It's following the Dow pretty well. I know Bitcoin follows the Nasdaq and the S&P probably a lot better, but again, the indices move together. So if this chart here is predicting a possible crash for the Dow, then that means all stocks are going to come down. That means the Nasdaq, the S&P, individual stocks like Nvidia and Tesla and Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. I'm talking about a crash, guys. So that's something to pay attention to. I will keep you updated with this chart. Now, this can take a while to play out. I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it's going to happen soon. And like I said, we're right at this ring, and I do expect something to play out like this. But again, these are weekly candles. But this does play along with what I just showed you with this DXY. If the dollar continues up, that is bearish for Bitcoin. So using these these two charts together shows me it's possible we could have a lot of downside. Now I did mention, guys, Bitcoin's bullish as long as we stay above. Like I said, as long as we stay above, in the previous video I showed you those levels that we got above. But as long as Bitcoin holds above, 114,000, I don't have those charts up from the last video, but as long as Bitcoin holds above 114,000, basically above this area, all right, because that's where that curve that I showed you, where I said, hey, to open a short, which I did with a low margin, then added to my short at 16K, a low margin, and then continued to add to my short as it pushed up. But I also opened a long with higher margin and higher leverage and took my profit, guys. You can have longs and shorts open at the same time. But again, as long as we hold above 113,900, that is still bullish, because that curve is right around that area. So as long as we're above that, that's bullish, and that linear line is around 116,000, around that price. So as long as we hold above those levels, guys, Bitcoin's looking very bullish. But if we do drop back below 113,900 and we start coming to some lower targets, then we're back below that macro curve since the beginning of Bitcoin, and way below that linear line that I showed in the previous video as well, around 116,000. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is tomorrow we have the inflation report. Let me zoom in here. Actually, let me go to this chart right here. So tomorrow is the 15th. So we get our inflation data, right? So previous was 2.4. Forecast is 2.7. Core inflation was 2.8. Forecast is 3. And this is another inflation. So this is core inflation rate, MOM, 0.01. Forecast 0.03. So, all the inflation, what they're expecting or they're forecasting is going to be bad. Now, it might be worse. If it is, that could be bad for markets, because that means if inflation is going up, the Fed is not going to cut rates. And they were talking about cutting rates in September. So that could be bearish, and that could be another reason why markets could drop more and Bitcoin could drop. Guys, I'm just showing you what's in the charts and what's going on. I do know the dollar has found a very critical support level. I showed you this in the last video if you want to see why this is such an important level. We know that something major is going to happen soon with the Dow. If it plays out, if this cycle plays out like this last cycle, we know that we're going to have a lot of downside. And so far, Bitcoin has been moving with the indices. We know that for a fact. But you have your key levels to pay attention to, guys. Just pay attention on the hourly. If we get below 119,500, that becomes resistance. We know we're headed down to fill that gap at the very least. If that gap holds long, ride this back up if you guys are still bullish. But remember, if that gap breaks, right? If we fill this gap and then we continue down and this becomes resistance, then I'm sorry, I think we have a lot more downside. But in the meantime, as long as we fill this gap, which does seem likely it will get filled, stay bullish above this point. And it does not mean we have to fill this gap anytime soon. We can start pushing up, test that resistance above on the H1 chart. And maybe at the end of the week we come back down, and maybe it's 2 weeks before we fill this gap. But we do know that these gaps do tend to get filled. Now, I don't know if it'll be sooner or later, but that is a target to pay attention to. think that pretty much covers it, guys. Again, if you get to leverage trading, check out CoinCatch. Some great specials. Again, $5,000 if you deposit $1,000. That's a pretty good damn bonus. Again, all these links will be pinned in the first comment description, including this tutorial video, which you should watch. I do show you all the tools I use and how I use them. And again, guys, you can sign up for my charts. Again, all those links pinned in the first comment description. Sorry, this did run a little longer than I expected, but you have your levels, and this is how I'm playing it. If we get below 119,500, short. If we hit 114,000, you know, I'm going long. But if that breaks and comes resistance, I'm ready to write it down further. All right, guys, that's it. Trade safe, stay smart. I'm out.